I know the feeling when you're scrolling through a sea of grills, wondering if the next big purchase will finally give you that authentic wood-smoked flavor without turning your backyard into a fire hazard zone. You've probably heard the hype about pellet grills, seen the flashy ads, and then thought, is this really worth the price, or am I just buying a fancy kitchen gadget that will end up gathering dust? That hesitation is exactly why I wanted to break down the Traeger Woodridge Pro the way you'd hear from a friend who actually sat down with the grill, read the user forums, and talked to a few other owners before hitting record. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the category itself. Pellet grills sit somewhere between traditional charcoal smokers and gas grills. They promise the low and slow, wood-infused flavor of a smoker, but with the convenience of an electric thermostat. The biggest pain point people mention is the learning curve. You have to understand pellet consumption, preheat times, and how the digital controls behave in real weather. The Woodridge Pro tries to smooth those bumps with a built-in Wi-Fi controller and a super smoke mode that promises an extra burst of smoke for that deep flavor profile. When you pull the Woodridge Pro out of the box, the first thing you notice is the size. At roughly 970 square inches of cooking space, it's big enough to handle a full Thanksgiving turkey on one rack while you're still able to throw a few side dishes on the second level. The assembly is surprisingly straightforward. Most reviewers say you can get the basic frame together in under an hour with the provided tools. The real setup part comes after the grill is upright. You need to load the hopper with wood pellets, make sure the lid seals properly, and then connect the Wi-Fi module to your home network. The Wi-Fi connection process is guided by the Traeger app, which walks you through pairing the grill, updating firmware, and setting up your first cooking profile. I found that as long as your router is within a reasonable range, the app stays reliably connected. You can actually see the grill's temperature on your phone while you're inside, which is a huge convenience if you're trying to keep an eye on a low and slow brisket while the kids are doing homework. Now, how does it perform day to day? The biggest selling point is the super smoke mode. In practice, you enable it before you start a meat that benefits from an extra smoke layer, think pork shoulder or a thick cut of beef ribs. The grill automatically increases the pellet feed rate for the first 3,045 minutes, creating a denser smoke plume without you having to manually adjust anything. On a typical summer evening, I set the grill to 225F, activated super smoke, and walked away for a couple of hours. When I returned, the meat had a distinct, wood-rich bark that many charcoal-only grills struggle to achieve. The temperature held steady within a few degrees, which is critical for those long cooks that can't afford a sudden spike or drop. One practical strength that often gets lost in the marketing is the convenience of the set-and-forget approach. Because the grill uses an electric igniter and a digital controller, you don't have to light a fire or manage airflow with vents. You simply set the desired temperature, press start, and the grill takes over. This is especially handy for busy households that want to prep dinner while still being able to monitor a child or finish a work call. The Wi-Fi app also lets you adjust the temperature on the fly, so if you decide you want a quicker sear at the end, you can bump the heat up without opening the lid and losing precious smoke. That said, there are some trade-offs you need to be aware of. Pellet consumption is real. The Woodridge Pro can go through a few pounds of pellets during a marathon cook, which means you have to keep a decent supply on hand and store them in a dry place. Moisture is the enemy. If your pellets get damp, you'll notice inconsistent feeding and sometimes the grill will pause while it tries to clear a jam. Another practical weakness is the preheat time. Compared to a gas grill that's ready in 5 minutes, the Woodridge Pro typically needs 1,015 minutes to climb to a stable 350F, and longer if you're aiming for low and slow temps. If you're used to throwing a steak on a hot grill and serving it within minutes, this slower ramp-up might feel like a drawback. Space is also a consideration. The grill's footprint is larger than a typical propane unit, and the hopper adds extra height. If your patio or deck is already cramped, you'll need to measure carefully before committing. Finally, the price point sits in the higher-end bracket for home grills. The value proposition isn't just the metal and electronics, it's the combination of wood flavor, smart connectivity, and that generous cooking surface. For someone